Okay, on the word problems, what I want you to do is I want you to hold off on number 1. So just put like a little line through number 1 over here. I don't want you to do that one yet because it's a rectangular prism, and we're going to work on that one starting on Wednesday. So I want you to go ahead and skip to number 2 because right now I just want you to deal with cylinders. And here it says, determine the total surface area of the cylindrical container. Now, when we see cylindrical, right, that's a key word. It has the words, the first part of the word cylinder in there. So we're going to underline it. That is a key word because we want to underline keywords and values and variables. Then it says container in exercise 1. Then it says round to the nearest tenth. Which container has the smaller surface area? So what I want you to do is we're going to modify this a bit. I'm not worried about you finding the smaller surface area, so just you could draw a line through there. I just want you to determine the total surface area and then round to the nearest tenth. So if you can do those two things, we're going to find the total surface area of the cylindrical container in exercise 1. That's this item right here, so I'll put this as exercise 1. And we're going to determine that surface area and round it to the nearest tenth. So let's go ahead. They've already got the image drawn for us. We're going to follow our steps. And whenever we address a word problem, step 1 is we read the word problem and underline keywords and box numbers and variables. Then we're going to go ahead and go to our process that we use, those 4 steps to solve for the total surface area of a cylinder. Let's go ahead and shade in the bases. So I'm going to shade those in. Now that I've done that, we know that we're going to need to find big B, we're going to need to find P, and we're going to need to find H. In other words, we got the area of the base, so all this shaded in area, that's our big B. Then we need to find the perimeter, which is the perimeter of the circle, or what we call the circumference, so the distance around the circle. And then we need to find H, which is the distance between the two bases. So big B is going to use that formula, pi r squared. P is going to use the formula 2 pi r. And then we have our height, which is real simple, right? We just look at the distance between the two bases, and we can go in and say, well, that's 10. Let's just fill that in. That's out of the way. So let's go in and see what we got to do. Now, think about it. This line goes all the way across. So is it the radius, which is r, or is it the diameter? And this is the diameter because it goes all the way across. Remember, we just need half of it. So you might be able to divide this in half in your head, but what I'd recommend is, just to make sure you don't make a mistake, let's use the calculator real quick. Alright, and if we use the calculator, we're going to just put in our diameter, which is 4.4. We're going to divide that by 2, hit enter, and it gives us 2.2. So our radius is actually going to be 2.2. So let's go ahead and write that down. I'm going to cross this number out, go with a radius is going to be 2.2 inches. So now that I know my radius, I know what r is, I can plug that r in for this r in my formula. So let me rewrite it with the number plugged in, and that's going to be pi times r, which is 2.2 squared. For the perimeter, it's going to be 2 times pi times the radius, which is 2.2. And I already have h. So now, if you notice, I'm going to underline them. I have my big B, I have my big P, and I have my h. So let's put all this together into our formula and determine the surface area of this cylinder. So our P is going to be 2 pi times 2.2. So we got 2 times pi times 2.2. And then we have to multiply that to our h, which our h is just 10. The height between two bases is 10. And we're going to add that to 2 times the area of the base. And the area of the base is pi times 2.2 squared. So pi times 2.2 squared. Now, looking at this, right, in case some of you are still kind of grasping this, remember the reason we say 2 times the area of the base is because there's 2 bases. And let's go ahead and put this in our calculator. Alright, so if we put this in our calculator, we have parentheses. We're going to put in our big P first. So we're going to say 2 times pi times 2.2. And then we're going to multiply that to the height. So I'm going to put another parenthesis and plug in my height times 10. And then I'm going to add that to 2 times the area of the base. So I got 2 times the big B, which is going to be pi times 2.2 squared. So now all you have to do is hit enter, and it's going to give you the answer. So let's see on this one, there's our answer. And if we look, we have a 6 right here, but we want to round to the tens place, which is where the 6 is. But the number that follows is a 4. And remember, 4 or less, let it rest. So this is going to be 168.6. So let's go ahead and write that answer down. So this one is 168.6. And this is going to be inches. So it's going to be inches squared. Now, alright, let's go ahead and take a look at number 3 and see what we can do with it. So on number 3, it says Brooke is making a cylindrical, we're going to underline that, that's a key word, bolster pillow for her couch. The pillow is 18 inches, so we're going to box that long, and has a radius, underline that key word, of 5 inches. We're going to box that. Determine the amount of fabric needed for the pillow. Round to the nearest tenth. Now notice it didn't tell us total surface area, but it did say to determine the amount of fabric needed for the pillow. So let's draw this pillow, because anytime we get something like this, we want to draw the image. It says it's cylindrical, so that means this pillow looks identical to a cylinder. It told us that the pillow is 18 inches long, so I can tell you right now that's going to be our height. That's from base to base, it's 18 inches. And then if we look at the radius, it says the radius is 5 inches. So let's write 5 inches. So there's our figure. Make sure you draw the figure once you underline and box the information. So that way you know what you're looking at and it'll make more sense. So now all we have to do to solve this is find our big B. We want to find our P. And we want to find our H. And how do we know we need to find all of those? Well, it says that we need to determine the amount of fabric needed for the pillow. So we want to cover this whole pillow. We don't want the stuff inside of the pillow falling out of the edges, right? So we need to cover both bases and the lateral surface area. So remember, big B is going to be pi r squared. Big P is going to be 2 pi r. And then we just got to find H. Well, the good thing is it gives us the radius, so we don't have to divide the diameter or anything like that. We can just plug the number in. So for r, we're just going to plug in our 5, which is our radius. So for big B, we got pi times 5 squared. For the perimeter, we have 2 times pi times r, so that's 2 times pi times 5, which is our radius. And our height between the two bases. And you know what? I skipped a step. I forgot to shade those in. Make sure you do that. Alright, and the distance between our two bases is 18. So now we have everything we need to know to set up our equation. So I'm going to set it up right here. pH plus 2b. My P is going to be 2 pi 5, so 2 times pi times 5, times my H, which is 18, plus 2 times the area of the base, which is pi 5 squared, so I'm going to put pi 5 squared. So now we just need to put this whole thing in a calculator and you'll have your answer. So when you get your answer, put it right there and box it. Alright, let's look at our final one. And the rest you're going to do on your own. So on number 4, it says the stairwell in a museum is in the shape of a cylinder. It's a key word, so we underline it. The diameter, underline it, is 20 feet. We're going to box that. And the height, underline, is 100 feet. The museum needs to paint the inside of the stairwell. Determine total the surface area. So I think they may have had a typo here. Determine the total surface area, I think is what they're supposed to be saying. So total surface area. And round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to round it to the nearest tenth. Now, we've already done our underlining and we've done our boxing. So the next step on this is we need to make sure that we draw the picture. So let's go and draw a picture. It says that that steering wheel is going to be in the shape of a cylinder. So I know that sounds kind of odd, but let's go ahead and draw a cylinder. Anytime it says cylinder, just draw a cylinder. It says the diameter is 20 feet. Now the diameter, unlike the radius, it goes all the way across. and that's 20 feet. Then it says the height is 100 feet. Well, the height is going to be the distance between the two bases. So distance between the two bases is 100 feet. So now that we have that, we just need to find our big B, our P, and our H. Remember, big B is going to be pi r squared. That's the area of the base. Big P is going to be 2 times pi times r. And H is just the height between the two bases. So let's look at big B first. Well, this one, I think most of us could probably just do this in our head, but you can use the calculator if you need to. So in order to find the radius is half the diameter. We just need half of it from here to here. So what's half of 20? So if we divide 20 by 2, it gives us 10. So our radius is actually going to be 10. So when I plug this into the formula, I'll do pi times 10 squared. And for the perimeter, right, the circumference, or the perimeter of the circle, we're going to have 2 times pi times the radius, which is 10. And my height between the two bases is 100. Now you have all three numbers that you need in order to plug them into your formula, pH plus 2b, and solve for the total surface area and round to the nearest tenth. So I'm going to let you do that on your own, and then complete the other two problems as well.